Hey guys, it's Bex. Welcome to another video. We're gonna be doing another doing book stuff video. I've done one kind of like this before where I do just, like I said, a bunch of bookish things. So in today's video, we're going to be doing some reading, journaling, updating, my stats, making my August spread because we are now 4 days into August and I haven't done that yet. And I wanted to also do a quick little July reading wrap up. And I was also thinking that I might want to unhaul a couple books, maybe like 4 or 5, not a lot. I honestly am really good about reading books or buying books I should say, that I really think I'm gonna like, and I end up liking a lot of them. But I feel like if it's like a 3.5 or 3 and I don't think I'm ever gonna read it again, I'm just gonna unhaul it. Eventually, like everyone, I want like a home library and stuff, but that's just not in the cards right now and probably not in the near-ish future. So I don't really care that much about just keeping every single book I own, especially if I didn't love it. So with those books, I might take them to little free libraries. I have 2 little free libraries pretty dang close to my house. So we might do that. We might do it today. We might do it a different day. But for sure, today, my plan is to do my July reading wrap up and my reading journal updates. So I think we're gonna start with my reading journaling because I have it all set out here. I usually do it in my office, but I just wanted to do it a little bit different today. So I have it all brought out here in my living room and we are just going to do some reading journaling, which I love. It's so fun. Let's go do that. Okay guys, hopefully you can see me okay. Lots of things I don't like about using my phone for filming, but one of them is that I have to set up the phone first and then do a test video, sit in the place I'm gonna sit, make sure I'm centered and whatnot, stop the video, see if I'm centered. If I am, then start the video. And sometimes I'm lazy and don't do that, like right now. So I didn't do that. I mean, I made sure that my setup was centered, but I didn't get in the video yet. So anyway, we are just going to light a candle. I love this little lighter. It's like I don't even know what you call it, but I love it. You just charge it and it never runs out. I mean, probably eventually. Another thing I don't like about using my phone for filming is that I can't listen to an audiobook on my phone while I'm filming. So right now that would be such a great time to listen to the audiobook I'm listening to, which if you're curious, I'm listening to Pet Sematary by Stephen King. So instead, I just have my TV and I'm just watching a book YouTube video. Sarah Caroli, to be specific. Anyway, enough rambling. So yeah, we're just gonna start. The other reason I kind of wanted to do it this way is because I'm gonna kind of explain what I'm doing as I go. I know I've done a reading journal whole walkthrough. I did that at the beginning of the year. So we're gonna start at the beginning, which is right here. This is my bookshelf. What books do I have? This is the problem, is I have to try and remember which is the last book that I marked. The nice thing is that I can see it was a mystery, so I can already think of what book that was. I can't remember what books I've read since that. Oh, that was actually the last book I read. So I already updated that. Okay, this is the first one we have to update. I have so many pens, it's actually crazy, but I use all of them and I love all of them. So this page is done. It's exactly what it sounds like, daily reading challenge. If I've read this day, I colored in with a color, different color for every month. So I just finished filling out July's. I did so good at the beginning of the month and then not as good, probably hence why I haven't finished a book since around here. And then I didn't read August 1st, but I've read today and then the last 2 days because it is the 4th today. I literally just realized as I was looking at this page because it shows that I only read 7 books, but I read 8 books in July. So I was trying to figure out if I missed a book, and I did actually miss a book. So let's go back to the beginning. I have read a book since 5 Survive, and that was Restore Me by Tahira Mafi. I've just been marking it as a fantasy. I don't know, so I'm just gonna keep with it because you gotta stay consistent. Otherwise, I would get super confused. Oh, see, I also have to mark Restore Me. I've read off of my physical TBR. Oh, I also just realized that I have a lot of books to add to my physical TBR page because, as you may have seen, I just did a big like book haul video because I got a bunch of books for my birthday. So let's add all those. Now we are on to where we were before with, oh, actually I have to add it to here. So that's marked off. Okay, so this page I just updated. I read another fantasy book, and then I added the 8th book to this monthly tracker, books I've read in a month list, whatever you want to call it. So that's the most amount of books I've read in a month so far this year. Just added that I read The Summer of Skinny Dipping on my Kindle. This page, my monthly stats for each month. I have my total books read, which in July was 8. Total pages read, which was 2,861, which again was the most out of any month. 5 physical books, 1 ebook, 2 audiobooks, no physical library books. One of the books was through my library, but it was an audiobook, so I counted it as an audiobook. And I bought a total of 9 books, and with adding and subtracting the physical books I read and all that, I believe my current TBR count is at 56. Again, this is at the end of July. I am now at like 66, I think. But that was after the start of August, so I will make sure, of course, to update that for that month. But that's that page. This is kind of similar to my physical TBR shelf, but it's just as of the start of 2024, the new books that I have bought. Gotta add, again, I think the 10 new books. Restore Me was another book that rolled over from 2023 that I owned, so that's done. Okay guys, I finished this page. This is my July spread. I still need to print out 2 book covers that I read this month, but they weren't on my TBR, so I usually print out the books. What was that? My cats literally just knocked a whole mug off of the counter, but it didn't break, which is good because we like that mug. Just all the books I read, their ratings, page numbers, or page count, and then the dates I read them, started and finished, and then how many books I read in each genre, how many books I read in each format, and then this is kind of a repeat from a previous page, how many books I read, how many pages I read, how many days out of the month I read, and then my favorite book of the month. So now we're on to one of my favorite things to do every month, which is to make my monthly like TBR page and spread. Alright guys, it's really boring so far because I feel like I usually add like stickers or little like doodles kind of later. I don't know. Also, I've just been sitting here doing this for a long time. I mean, not that long, but my arm is tired. So we're gonna stop here, but that is what we have for August so far. It is a couple days later. Oops. But we are now going to be doing our little July reading wrap up. And then I also have a pile of some books that I might try and take to the little free libraries. We'll start off with our July reading wrap up. So I read 8 books in July, which I think you guys kind of saw in my reading journal part of the video. I read 5 physical books, 2 I listened to on audio, and 1 I read on my Kindle. So first we'll talk about the 2 books that I read on the 1 book I read on my Kindle. The Summer of Skinny Dipping by Amanda Howells. I had never heard this book talked about anywhere online, at least, from what I've seen. So I honestly can't remember how I found it, but I did, and it sounded cute. So I bought it on my Kindle. I think it was like $8, so it's not on Kindle Unlimited. It is a YA romance. Summary takes place at the beach. So it's about this girl, Mia, who is she 17 years old? I already forgot. Somewhere around that age group. And she and her family are going to stay with her aunt and uncle and cousins for the summer. Her and her cousin, Corinne, have always been really close, but this summer when she goes, she kind of notices that Corinne is just acting like, not that she's like too cool for Mia, but she's just acting different from what Mia remembers. She's like drinking and smoking and just partying a lot, and her friends are like older. They're all like perfect, beautiful models, and Mia just feels left out and also just less than. So it is a romance, which I'll get into in a second, but it's also just like a coming of age story about Mia and how she learns to kind of accept herself. And something that helps her accept herself in this story is this guy, Simon, who is staying like next door or just down the beach from them, like renting a house on the beach for the summer, and he just kind of doesn't care what anyone thinks about him. Him and Mia hit it off, and a romance ensues with them. I thought it was cute. It's really short. It's less than 300 pages, so I feel like it's kind of hard to rate a book that short very high, but I think I went with a 3.5 star. I read it really fast. I wasn't bored while reading it, but it just wasn't anything special. The ending wasn't what I expected. It was kind of of sad, so just a warning, but it was cute. These are in order, by the way, so that's just one of the books I read. And then a couple of these I should probably put in order because they're part of a series. The series in question is Shatter Me by Tara Moffey. Unravel Me is the first book I read, and then you read, let me think about the order. Fracture Me, Ignite Me, and then Restore Me. So those are the books I read out of this series. First, real quick, we'll talk about Unravel Me. This was the first book in the series that I loved and that I rated 5 stars. I guess my only thing with this book is that the first half-ish was kind of slow, but I do think with how the first book in this series, Shatter Me, ended, it was kind of called for because, yeah, I can't give anything away because how the first book ended, but a little slow, and then I literally hit halfway through and I was obsessed and I was just like reading it so fast I didn't want to put it down. If you don't know, this is a YA dystopian fantasy romance series, and it follows the main character Juliet, whose touch can kill, so that's like her power, curse, whatever you want to call it, and they live in a world where there's no more like birds or really animals, and like all the food is disappearing, and there's like famine and everyone's dying. So this group called the Reestablishment kind of took over and basically just put, you know, rules on everything. There's curfews, and Juliet has been taken by the Reestablishment to kind of use her power as a weapon. So you're just following her and her journey and, you know, trying to escape them, trying to find how she can use her powers for good, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, 5-star book, so good. Then just quick little snippet on the novella Fracture Me. This is in one of the characters' POVs that isn't Juliet. His name is Adam, and this one is like so short, so it's half of this book. This has 2 novellas in it. I think it was like 72 pages or something, so short, and I found it just kind of repetitive because it kind of went over the same scenes in Unravel Me, just in Adam's POV instead of Juliet's. So because it was so short, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna read it, and I'm glad I read it, but I gave it like 3 stars. Then we get to my favorite book in the series so far, which is Ignite Me. Can't really get into what this book specifically is about, but I will say the romance in this book really kicks up, and I'm just in love with Aaron Warner in this book. Love him so much. You're getting more into war with this one and Unravel Me, but yeah, just so good. I even tabbed a little bit randomly, like starting halfway through. I don't usually tab or annotate books. One more thing, I read this book in 2 days, which is not like anything crazy, but it is over 400 pages, like pretty much 400 pages. So it's a little bit thicker. These books do read really quickly, but yeah, I read it in 2 days. Would have read it in 1 day, but I had work the next day, so I had to stop, but I literally was this close to just reading and finishing it. I still had like 150 pages left, and it was like 11 p.m. and I had to get up pretty early for work. So I did not do that, but I really wanted to. Which brings us to the last book in the series that I've read so far. There's a couple more, but Restore Me is the fourth like main book in the series, and this book was also 5 stars. I feel like it had a little bit of a different vibe to it than the other books have so far. No. Yeah, I feel like this book is kind of the start of a new plot almost, kind of, in the series. I actually had heard, and if you read the end, like, of Ignite Me, like the acknowledgements, yeah, she writes right here, "Thank you for following Juliet's journey with me. Thank you for caring so deeply. It is my very great hope that you will find this a worthy final installment." So she meant for Ignite Me originally to be the last book and for it to just be a trilogy, but she continued, so that makes sense. But yeah, this one is just more so about like the politics of the world and Juliet's background, and you get a lot of things revealed to you in this book. Like, the end was crazy, and I honestly don't know how I didn't just jump right into the one after this, after finishing this book. 5 stars for all of those except for the novella. Then the last physical book I read, and then we'll talk about the audiobooks. Reckless by Lauren Roberts, second book in the series, the Powerless trilogy, just came out in July. Very highly anticipated for a lot of people, myself included. This is a YA romantasy between this girl who is an ordinary and this prince who is an elite. So Peyton is our ordinary female main character, and what an ordinary means is that she, oh my god, does not have any powers, and Kai is our prince who is an elite and he does have powers. In this world that they live in, the ordinaries are like banished and killed because the elites think that if they are like living amongst and just around the ordinaries that they will die off. So Peyton is living in the same place as the elites because she has been pretending to be an elite for basically her whole life. She pretends to be a psychic, and somehow she finds herself playing in the purging trials, which are just trials between, like, I don't even remember how many, 10-ish elites. It's, you know, kind of like the Hunger Games, the trials. I mean, a lot of books have trials in them. So it's kind of just like that, and they're dangerous. You can die, only one person wins. And she isn't even an elite, so she has to just deal with that and try to win amongst all these people with crazy powers. And her and Kai are the enemies to lovers romance in this book. Ordinary and elite, they don't like each other. So it was so good. I rated this one a 4.25 stars. If you're curious about my more in-depth thoughts on this book, I did a reading vlog reading it, so I will put that in the corner of the screen for you. Lastly, the 2 audiobooks I listened to. First, I listened to Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is my 3rd book by her, and I really liked all of them. They've all been at least a 4-star, and this one was no exception. I also rated it 4 stars, and if you don't know, this is about this pro tennis player, Carrie Soto, who recently has retired. She was absolutely the best tennis player like in the world when she was playing. She had all these world records. A couple years after she retires, there's this new tennis player who just broke or tied, why am I forgetting right now? One of the two broke or tied her record for like the most wins. So she decides to come out of retirement and just make a comeback and try to win, and it's just a good comeback story, very inspiring. And I will say that Carrie as a character is not my absolute favorite. She's just a little bit brash and honestly, just for lack of a better word, rude. She just thinks she's the best. She knows she's the best. She doesn't try to make friends with the other tennis players on the tour, etc. But I do think that she kind of has a little bit of a redemption arc at the end, but still, she wasn't my absolute favorite, but I still really liked the book. 4 stars. And then very lastly, I listened to 5 Survived by Holly Jackson. This is a YA mystery thriller about this group of 6 friends who are on their way to their spring break destination, and they decide to take an RV to their spring break destination, but that was the wrong decision because they like break down in this kind of wooded, deserted road. There's no cell service, and they soon realize that it was not an accident. They realize that there's someone outside of the RV who is like keeping them hostage inside the RV basically. It takes place over one night only. I think it starts at like 10 p.m. and then goes until like very early morning, and I think this is the only book I've read like that, but I don't really know if I liked it that much because I just feel like the author has to be so detailed, I guess, with like what's happening in order to make it last 300 plus pages. I think this book was like maybe even like 400 pages. And there was one character, can't remember his name right now, who I just really did not like at all. He was awful, and surrounding him and just other things that happened in the book, I just found it a little bit unrealistic. And I also didn't feel super connected to any of the characters besides our main character, Red, whose POV we were in. So I rated it a 3.75 stars. So yeah, that is the 8 books I read in July. Now real quick for the books that I'm thinking of unhauling and bringing to the little free libraries. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about these, but Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. Honestly, I just was so bored when I read it. It was the first book I read this year. I think someone would be very happy to find this in there because 1, it's pretty, and 2, I think TJ Klune is a pretty well-known author. Next, we have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and I feel really bad about this one because a lot of people love this book, but I just didn't. It wasn't like horrible. I rated it 3 stars, but I just think that if I don't think I'm ever going to read it again, if I don't think I'm ever going to recommend it, but yeah, this is one that I'm thinking of unhauling. Then I have One for My Enemy by Olivia Blake. I also just didn't really like this book. I think this is my lowest rated book, I'm pretty sure. I think I rated it a 2.5 star. And again, I really like the cover, the inside covers. They're really cool. It's like a Romeo and Juliet retelling. I wish I liked it, but I just didn't. So I just feel like I can't keep a book just because I like the cover and then I wish I liked it, you know? Then these 2 books I liked probably the most out of all of these books, but I just, again, don't think I'll ever read them again, and they weren't anything special. First, we have Dash and Lily's Book of Dares. I read this I read this 2 Christmases ago, and I think I rated it like a 3.5 stars. It was cute, it's short, but I just think someone would appreciate it and enjoy it more than me. And lastly, Payback's a Witch by Lana Harper. Again, I think I rated it a 3.5 stars, but it just wasn't anything special. I definitely won't read it again. So yeah, those are the 5 books. I think I might put some shoes on and take you along with me to the little free libraries because it's actually a pretty nice day today and it's not too hot yet because it's only like 12:30. So let's go do that.